Hello, everyone. Tonight, we're not just talking about the past. We are stepping into it, leaving behind the frantic pace of our modern lives, and embarking on a slow, soothing journey back through time. Imagine, if you will, the hum of your refrigerator, the distant whine of a car, the gentle flicker of a screen. All of it fades away. You are now walking through a world that is eerily quiet, a place where the air itself feels different, heavy with a story that has yet to be told. The ground beneath your feet is not the familiar concrete or manicured lawn, but a landscape scarred by a cataclysm so profound it is known simply as the Great Dying. It's an epic of endings, but also of beginnings, a slow stroll through ancient ruins designed to help you unwind and maybe drift off to sleep before the dinosaurs even make their entrance. Now, before you go and watch, please take a moment to like and subscribe to this video, but only if you truly enjoy what I do. And just out of curiosity, where in the world are you listening from tonight? Let me know in the comments, and feel free to share your local time. I love seeing the quiet corners of the world where this channel reaches. So, settle in, take a deep breath. We are not in a hurry. The world we are about to explore has been waiting for us for over 250 million years. We can certainly take our time. Our journey begins not with a bang, but with a silence. An echoing, hollow silence that follows the end of the world. Imagine you are standing on a quiet hill in what will one day become the American Midwest, but the sky is a smoky haze and the land is scarred and barren. You feel the wind, but it carries no sound of rustling leaves or birdsong. There are no buzzing insects, no chirping frogs, no distant calls of large animals, just the sound of the wind whispering across a planet that has just held its breath for far too long. This is roughly 252 million years ago, in the aftermath of the Permian-Triassic extinction event, an apocalypse so complete it is often called the Great Dying. This wasn't a sudden cinematic event. It was a slow, agonizing unraveling of life's intricate tapestry, a planetary fever that eventually broke every living system it touched. It's a common historical fact that this event wiped out around 90% of all marine species and 70% of all land vertebrates. Now that number is so large, it's almost meaningless. So let's try to picture it in a different way. Imagine walking through the busiest city you know, and finding that 90% of the people, the cars, the noise, the energy is just gone. It's a silence so vast it feels like a presence. You walk down from the hill, the dry soil crunching under your feet. The ground is a deep ochre red, and strange skeletal trees stand like sentinels, their bark cracked and peeling. These aren't the lush ferns and towering conifers you might picture from the Jurassic. These are survivors, tough and gnarled, adapted to a world that seems to be actively trying to kill them. The atmosphere itself feels different. The air is thinner with significantly lower oxygen levels than today. Every breath you take requires a little more effort, a gentle reminder that this is truly a different planet. The climate is wildly unstable, swinging from intense, scorching heat to periods of cold and dust. Massive volcanic eruptions across what is now Siberia, a place we call the Siberian Traps, belched trillions of tons of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. This caused a runaway greenhouse effect, heating the oceans to toxic temperatures, triggering the mass death of marine life. A fascinating but little-known detail is that the ocean itself was a killer. The extreme heat caused oxygen to be depleted, and anaerobic bacteria that thrive without oxygen began to flourish, releasing toxic hydrogen sulfide gas into the air. This meant that the end was coming not just from the sky, but from the depths of the ocean itself. Historians and geologists still debate the exact cocktail of volcanic activity, climate change, and ocean chemistry that brought about this catastrophic event, but the result was indisputable. You continue your slow stroll. The landscape is not a vibrant green, but a muted, dusty brown. You pass by a riverbed, now just a dry, cracked scar in the earth, and you can almost feel the absence of life. It's a world that has been reset. All the niches, all the complex ecological roles that had been filled for tens of millions of years are now empty. This isn't a world for the faint of heart. The few creatures that survived were those that could adapt to these extreme conditions. Small burrowing reptiles and some hardy amphibians that could withstand the heat. There's a quiet determination in this world, a sense of a planet rebuilding itself from the ground up, a slow and patient process. It reminds you that endings in nature are rarely just endings. They are often the most fertile soil for new beginnings. Think about the most difficult time you've ever had, that felt like a personal great dying. You didn't just disappear, did you? You adapted, you changed, you grew in ways you couldn't have imagined before. The Earth, it turns out, is a lot like us. It finds a way. You spot a small lizard-like creature scurrying from one rock to another. It's a tough little survivor, its movements quick and efficient. This is likely a type of synapsid, an ancestor of modern mammals. It is not the size of a dinosaur, nor the power of one, but it is surviving. It's eating what it can, hiding from what little danger is left, and quietly, persistently living its life. And it's not alone. We know from the fossil record that from the smoldering ashes of the Permian, a new group of reptiles was beginning to stir. These are the Ankylosaurs, a name that means ruling reptiles. They are not yet the dinosaurs you are here to see, but they are the blueprint. They have already evolved some serious upgrades, a more upright, powerful stance that allows for more efficient movement and more advanced respiratory systems. While other animals of the time are slow and lumbering, these creatures are quick, agile, and oddly well-suited for a post-apocalyptic Earth. It's a little like that guy you know who somehow thrives during a crazy week at work while everyone else is just trying to get by. Some creatures are just built for chaos, and these are them. You pause for a moment to watch the sun, a harsh yellow disk in the hazy sky set over the desolate landscape. There's no big beautiful sunrise and sunset here, just a gentle shift from a pale suffocating light to a dark enveloping black. The stars, once they emerge, look different too. The night sky is a silent canvas, and you feel truly alone in the vastness of time. You have traveled over 250 million years, and you are standing at the very beginning of the Mesozoic era, the age that will eventually be known as the Age of Reptiles. The stage has been cleared. The cast has been selected. All that's left is for the story to begin. And it will begin in the quietest possible way, with the rustle of a fern and the quiet scamper of a small, wiry predator that you wouldn't even think to be a king. But that, my friend, is a story for later. For now, just feel the quiet, the stillness, the sense of a world holding its breath, waiting for its cue. The dinosaurs are coming, but they have a long way to go, and so do we. You are standing on a quiet shore, not of an ocean you would recognize, but of a vast unbroken sea called Paleontology. Behind you, the land stretches out endlessly, a single colossal landmass that would one day be torn apart and scattered across the globe like puzzle pieces. This is Pangea. It is not just a different time, it is a different planet entirely. You could, in theory, walk from what will one day be the Rocky Mountains of North America to the future Sahara Desert without ever needing a boat, a fact that would be useful if you could somehow survive the journey. The Triassic period, which stretches from about 252 to 201 million years ago, is a time of geological and biological recovery. After the Great Cataclysm, the Earth is like a garden after a fire. The soil is rich with ash, the air is clean, or at least less toxic, and the stage is set for a new kind of life to take root. But first, you must endure the landscape. Most of Pangea is an arid, dusty desert. The interior is a vast, sweltering expanse, far from the cooling influence of any ocean. The air is thinner here, with significantly less oxygen than what you are used to. It makes you feel a little lightheaded, like you've been hiking at a high altitude for too long. The sun is a harsh, relentless eye in the sky. If you were a creature of the Permian adapted to a different, more stable world, you would not last long here. The land is unforgiving, but in its harshness, it is also a powerful evolutionary forge. Only the toughest, the most adaptable will survive and thrive. The flora reflects this. There are no lush, vibrant forests here, no colorful blooms. The plant life is dominated by tough, scrubby things, cycads with their thick, woody trunks, ginkgos with their distinctive fan-shaped leaves, and towering conifers. These plants are built for drought and heat, and they stretch across the landscape in a somber, muted green. You begin to walk your feet, kicking up fine reddish dust. You feel a strange sense of solitude, a loneliness that is unique to this time. There are no birds singing, no insects buzzing loudly. The most prominent sounds are the whisper of the wind and the gentle crunch of the ground beneath your feet. But as you continue, you begin to see subtle signs that life in its quiet, persistent way is re-emerging. There are the tough, small-bodied synapsids, distant ancestors of mammals, scurrying from one rock to another, and the occasional large, lumbering amphibian remnants of a world that is now gone. But a new group is beginning to rise to prominence, a group that is far more suited to this unforgiving landscape. These are the Archosaur family, the ruling reptiles. They are not yet dinosaurs, but they are their direct lineage, their evolutionary stepping stones. And they have some clever tricks up their scaly sleeves. One of the most profound evolutionary upgrades for the Archosaurs is their posture. While many reptiles of the time still sprawled with their legs sticking out to the side, forcing them to waddle and lumber along, the Archosaurs were beginning to stand tall with their legs positioned more directly beneath their bodies. This may not sound like a big deal, but it was a game changer. It allowed them to move more efficiently, to walk and run for longer distances without getting tired. Imagine trying to run a marathon with your knees pointed sideways. It just doesn't work. The Archosaurs, with their more upright stance, were like the endurance runners of the Triassic. They were fast, they were agile, and they were, frankly, much cooler than their waddling counterparts. This upright posture was also an interesting adaptation because it helped them in another way, one you might not have considered. It elevated their bodies off the scorching hot ground, allowing for better thermoregulation. A small but brilliant design choice in a world that felt like a perpetually cranked-up oven. You pass by a watering hole, a small muddy puddle shimmering under the afternoon sun. Here, life is a little more concentrated. You see strange crocodile-like creatures, called phytosaurs, lurking at the edges, and armored plant-eating etosaurs browsing on the tough vegetation. This is the world the first dinosaurs were born into, a world not of giant predators and herbivores, but of a variety of competitors, each with its own niche. The dinosaurs were at this point just one small group among many, and not even the most successful. Yet they had a secret weapon, one that is still debated among paleontologists today: their metabolism. The prevailing academic argument is that while many other reptiles were cold-blooded early archosaurs, and their dinosaurian descendants may have been partially or fully warm-blooded, this would have given them a huge advantage in the wildly unstable climate of the Triassic. They could be active at night and during cooler periods when other animals would be slow and sluggish. While the debate over whether they were truly warm-blooded or something in between continues, it is a fascinating detail that speaks to their unique adaptability. An uncommon detail about this period is the sheer variety of life that existed alongside the archosaurs. While we focus on the ancestors of dinosaurs, the Triassic was a menagerie of oddities. There were dicynodonts, strange tusked reptiles that resembled a cross between a hippo and a gopher, and rhynchosaurs with their bird-like beaks. These creatures were the dominant herbivores of the early Triassic, having survived the Permian extinction. They were the reigning kings of the food chain, and the early archosaurs were simply the up-and-comers, the hungry newcomers trying to get a foothold in a crowded world. This is a crucial, often overlooked point. The dinosaurs did not just appear and take over. They had to earn their place, fighting and evolving in a competitive landscape for millions of years. It's like a band of plucky new startups trying to get a foothold in a market dominated by a few established corporate giants. They have to be smarter, faster, and more adaptable just to survive. You continue your journey feeling the quiet rhythm of evolution all around you. You see a small reptile with a slightly more upright gait than its ancestors darting between rocks with an uncanny speed. It's a precursor, a ghost of a blueprint, showing you what is to come. The silent march of progress, one small bone, one efficient muscle at a time. This world is not grand yet. It is not home to the thunderous roars of a tyrannosaur or the earth-shaking footsteps of a brachiosaurus. It is subtle. It is patient. It is a slow, quiet hum of a planet getting its act together after a very, very bad day. And in this hum, in this quiet, you can feel the potential, the endless, silent potential of a new world. The stage has been set, the early players are in position, and for now, the story is just a whisper on the wind. You are still walking through the Triassic landscape, a world of sun-baked rock and tough fibrous plants. The silence is no longer absolute. A new quiet hum has begun to enter the air. It's the sound of a world that is not yet fully alive, but is no longer sleeping. You've seen the archosaurs, those tough, agile ruling reptiles, but you haven't yet met the stars of our show. The very first true dinosaurs. They appear around 230 million years ago, a mere moment in geological time after the Great Dying. And to your surprise, they are not the titanic figures of your imagination. They are small. In fact, many are no larger than a family dog, their wiry bodies darting through the undergrowth. This is a common historical fact that often gets lost in the thunderous majesty of the later periods. The dinosaur story began on a quiet, humble scale. Picture a little creature called Eoraptor. Its name means dawn plunderer, and it is a wiry two-legged hunter, about the size of a turkey with a long tail for balance. It is not a monster. It is a creature of cunning and speed, using its small serrated teeth to snatch up tiny prey. Or consider Herrerasaurus, slightly larger, but still nothing like the giants that would follow a slim, sharp-toothed predator that stalked the ferns and cycads. If you were a time traveler, you would not see these creatures and immediately think, oh, there's a dinosaur. You would probably think, what a strange-looking lizard, and go back to your day blissfully unaware that you had just witnessed the first act of the most dominant lineage in Earth's history. They weren't roaring or stomping. An uncommon detail often lost to the roar of Hollywood is that their vocalizations were likely nothing more than hisses, coos, and perhaps low rumbling croaks, much more like an angry goose or a modern-day crocodile than a movie monster. You watch as one of these small predators, a little guy with quick darting movements, tries to avoid a much larger animal. The Triassic landscape is full of competitors, and at this point, the dinosaurs are very much the underdogs. They share the land with a host of other creatures, many of which are far more imposing. There are giant amphibians lumbering through the wetlands, their skin slick and their movements slow. There are the crocodile-like phytosaurs, long-jawed hunters that dominate the rivers and swamps. And perhaps most importantly, there are the larger archosaurs, the crurotarsans, which are the ancestors of modern crocodiles. These creatures have already achieved great size and power, and they ruled the Triassic landscape. They were the established order, the corporate giants of their day, and the early dinosaurs were the tiny startups trying to find a niche where they could survive. So what made them so special? Why didn't they just fade away like so many other creatures? Well, their upright posture, as we've discussed, was a massive advantage. It made them more efficient. But they also had a lighter build. Their bones were hollow, or at least a little less dense than their competitors, which made them faster and more agile. This allowed them to outrun prey and predators alike, a crucial advantage in a world where speed meant survival. Another key feature was their respiratory system. Many paleontologists believe that early dinosaurs had a breathing system similar to modern birds with air sacs that allowed for a constant one-way flow of oxygen. This would have been an incredible superpower in the low-oxygen atmosphere of the Triassic. While their rivals were wheezing and panting, the dinosaurs could just keep going, their internal biological turbochargers humming along. This is one of the many fascinating ideas that are still debated in academia. For example, paleontologists continue to debate the exact nature of the earliest dinosaur metabolisms, with some arguing for full warm-bloodedness, while others suggest a more complex in-between state. You find a quiet spot to rest, a small cave carved into a sandstone cliff. Inside, you see the faint, fossilized impression of an ancient fern. This tiny detail reminds you that even here, in a world that feels so alien, the basic laws of life are in play. Survival, reproduction, adaptation. The dinosaurs were not a perfect, pre-designed solution. They were a work in progress, a series of evolutionary experiments. Some of these experiments were wild. Some early dinosaurs, especially the smaller ones, may have been covered in a light fuzz, a kind of proto-feather. This wasn't for flight, not yet, but for insulation to help them regulate their body temperature, and perhaps for display. It's humbling to think that the same genetic blueprint that would one day lead to the wings of a hawk or the iridescent plumage of a hummingbird began with a bit of fuzzy fluff on the back of a small sprinting lizard. The world outside your cave is a dangerous, crowded place. You see a large, heavily armored Adasaur browsing on the tough vegetation. Its body is like a walking fortress, and it seems to have no fear of anything. The small dinosaurs, by contrast, are more cautious. They move with an awareness that their survival depends on their speed and their wits, not their bulk or their armor. They are the scrappy newcomers looking for an opening, a moment of weakness. It's a fascinating ecological dance, a slow, quiet competition that will, over millions of years, determine the fate of the world. For now, the dinosaurs are just part of the background noise. They are not the main event. They are just the opening act. But as you watch a small, agile dinosaur sneak past a much larger rival, you get the sense that their moment is coming. The world is changing, and they are changing with it. You feel the world around you begin to change almost imperceptibly at first. The air grows warmer, more humid. The ground, once so dry and cracked, starts to soften under your feet, giving way to patches of verdant moss and small sprouting ferns. You can hear a new sound, a quiet rustle in the air, the collective sigh of a planet recovering. This is the end of the Triassic, a moment marked by another mass extinction event. It wasn't as severe as the Great Dying, but it was just as important for our story. This time the world was hit by a wave of massive volcanic activity, likely in what is now the Atlantic region. The event, like a cosmic clearing of the table, decimated many of the dinosaurs' major competitors. The powerful crocodile-like archosaurs, the large amphibians, many of them simply vanished. A common historical fact is that this event left a crucial empty niche, a kind of wide-open real estate opportunity on a global scale. And the dinosaurs, with their upright posture and efficient lungs, were perfectly poised to move in. You step into the Jurassic period, and it feels like a different planet entirely. The harsh, arid landscape of Pangaea's interior is now being transformed. As the supercontinent begins its slow geological divorce, inland seas and vast lakes form. The climate becomes warmer and wetter, and life begins to flourish in an astonishing way. Towering conifers, lush ferns, and cycads carpet the landscape in a deep, vibrant green. All this plant life created a problem, but a good problem, to have a surplus of food. And where there is an abundance of food, there is an evolutionary opportunity to grow. This is the dawn of the giants. You hear them before you see them. A low, rhythmic thud, like a distant heartbeat echoing across the plains. Then another. And another. The sound grows louder, a gentle but powerful rumble that vibrates through the soles of your feet. And then they appear. Moving slowly with a quiet, patient majesty are the sauropods, the long-necked giants that would become the quintessential symbol of the Jurassic. They are the gentle titans, the herbivores of unimaginable scale. We are talking about creatures like Apatosaurus, Diplodocus, and Brachiosaurus. A common historical fact is that these were the largest animals ever to walk the earth, with some species reaching lengths of over 100 feet, which is longer than a blue whale, or about the length of a professional baseball infield, and heights that could rival a 5-story building. Their bodies are colossal, their necks impossibly long, and their heads, by comparison, are comically small. As you stand in their shadow, you can't help but wonder at the sheer physics of their existence. How did a creature so massive support its own weight? This is where an uncommon detail comes into play. A piece of evolutionary engineering that is nothing short of brilliant. Sauropods had lightweight, hollow bones. Not completely hollow like a bird's, but filled with a network of air sacs connected to their respiratory system. This was a dual-purpose solution. It made their bodies much lighter than you would expect for their size, and it helped them breathe with incredible efficiency. Imagine carrying a set of bones that are both strong and light. It's like the engineers of evolution were working with carbon fiber instead of solid rock. This respiratory system, similar to that of modern birds, allowed for a continuous one-way flow of air through their lungs, a necessary superpower for a creature that needed a constant supply of oxygen to fuel its enormous body. You watch as a herd moves across a fern-covered floodplain. Their long necks sway from side to side, elegant and graceful, despite their immense size. It's hard to imagine, but the movement of that neck, supported by hundreds of vertebrae, was a marvel of biological design. The academic debate here is fascinating. Paleontologists still debate the exact posture of their necks, whether they held them high in the air to browse from the tops of trees like ancient giraffes, or kept them more horizontal to sweep across the ground, grazing on low-lying vegetation. The truth may have been a combination of both, depending on the species and the terrain. But regardless of how they ate, their appetite was insatiable. It is estimated that a large sauropod would have needed to consume several hundred pounds of vegetation each day, a number that sounds like a typo, but is very, very real. The sound of their foraging must have been a constant low-grade, crunching, a kind of natural lawnmower that could clear entire forests over the course of a week. The world they inhabit is rich with food and opportunity. The forests are dense and silent, but for the soft thud of their feet and the occasional bellow, a low echoing rumble that would be felt more than it was heard, something between a foghorn and the low song of a whale. And while the sauropods were the most prominent, they were not alone. Other dinosaurs were also beginning to grow, though not to such titanic proportions. The first large predators, the theropods, were beginning to emerge, their bodies built for speed and power, an inevitable response to all that sauropod meat walking around. You don't get gentle giants without getting a few terrifying ones in their wake. But for now, the story is about this quiet dominance, this patient, slow-motion conquest of the globe. As the Jurassic sun sets, you watch the silhouettes of a herd of sauropods moving against a sky streaked with orange and pink. They are the undisputed rulers of this time, not through brute force or cunning, but through sheer impossible size. They had the right genes, the right posture, and they were in the right place at the right time to take advantage of a world reborn. Their story is a reminder that sometimes the simplest solutions, a long neck, a lightweight bone, and an abundance of food, can lead to the most extraordinary results. The Earth's canvas is now full, and the age of the dinosaurs is well and truly underway. You've watched the giants rise their immense forms, reshaping the world with every step. But even as they dominate the ground itself is not stable. You feel a slow, powerful tectonic shifting beneath your feet. The great supercontinent of Pangaea is finally giving way, pushed and pulled by the deep churning forces of the Earth's mantle. It is a slow grinding separation, the geological equivalent of a long drawn-out divorce. Vast rifts form, filling with water, and eventually becoming oceans, pulling the northern landmass of Laurasia away from the southern landmass of Gondwana. This geological separation is a common historical fact that is often overshadowed by the dinosaurs themselves, but it is one of the most crucial elements of our story. It leads to isolation, and isolation, as any biologist will tell you, is a key ingredient for evolutionary innovation. You find yourself in the northern landmass of Laurasia, the land that will one day become North America, Europe, and Asia. The landscape is a mosaic of habitats with vast forests, coastal plains, and inland seas. With new habitats comes new life, and here you see some of the most iconic dinosaurs beginning to take shape. Your attention is immediately drawn to a creature with a familiar, almost absurd silhouette, the Stegosaurus. A common historical fact is that this dinosaur is known for its 2 rows of large bony plates running along its back and its spiked tail, which is affectionately called a thagomizer in honor of a comic strip. It looks like it was built by a committee with its tiny head and massive lumbering body. You watch one of these creatures as it slowly browses on a fern. Its head, we know from the fossil record, contained a brain no larger than a walnut, a detail that often brings a gentle chuckle. It's hard to reconcile the immense size of the animal with the tiny, almost comically small brain at its core. But intelligence, it turns out, is not always the key to survival. Sometimes all you need is a tough hide, a good sense of smell, and a very sturdy set of teeth for grinding up tough plant material. The Stegosaurus may not have been a genius, but it was a perfect example of a successful herbivore in this new shifting world. An uncommon detail about these plates is that they were likely not just for defense. While they would have made a predator think twice, many paleontologists believe they were used for thermoregulation, acting like biological solar panels to absorb and release heat, helping the dinosaur regulate its body temperature in the changing climate. They may also have been used for display, a kind of billboard to impress a mate or ward off rivals. And where there is a plant eater, there is always a predator. The top predator of the Jurassic was the Allosaurus, a formidable bipedal hunter. You catch a glimpse of one in the distance, its body built for speed and power, with a skull full of serrated teeth and strong-clawed forelimbs. It's no slouch. Its jaw was like a serrated hatchet designed for a powerful vertical slashing motion that would have delivered a devastating bite. And the academic debate here is fascinating. Paleontologists still debate whether the Allosaurus was a lone hunter, a stealthy ambusher, or if it hunted in packs using coordinated tactics to take down the much larger sauropods and armored stegosaurs. But the most astonishing story of this period unfolds not on the ground, but in the air. You look up and you see something that seems impossible, a creature with feathers and wings, but also a long bony tail and a mouth full of teeth. This is Archaeopteryx, a transitional fossil that is one of the most important discoveries in the history of paleontology. It had feathers and a wishbone hallmarks of a bird, but it also had the skeleton of a small theropod dinosaur. It's the clearest example we have of the profound evolutionary link between dinosaurs and modern birds, a common historical fact that is still difficult to comprehend. The academic debate surrounding this creature is still very much alive. Paleontologists still debate whether Archaeopteryx was a true flyer capable of powered flapping flight, or if it was simply a glider using its feathered wings to flutter between trees and escape from danger. It was an evolutionary experiment, a fascinating design brainstorm that would, over millions of years, lead to the mastery of the sky. As the sun sets over the shifting continents, you see a world that is not just getting bigger, but getting more complicated, more specialized. On the ground, the dinosaurs have diversified into an astonishing array of forms, from the armored herbivore to the swift bipedal predator. And in the air, a new frontier is being explored. The very idea of flight, once a distant dream, is now becoming a reality. The story of the dinosaurs is now more than just the story of the land. It is a story of a world that is beginning to stretch its wings both literally and figuratively and it is a testament to the quiet, persistent, and often surprisingly beautiful nature of evolution. The world, which has been slowly and deliberately changing for millions of years, suddenly feels alive in a completely new way. The air is warm and humid, carrying a fresh new scent that you've never smelled before. The soft, sweet aroma of flowers. The Cretaceous period has arrived, and if the Jurassic was the age of giants, the Cretaceous is the age of variety, flair, and specialization. It is the dinosaurs' golden age. A common historical fact is that during this period, which lasted from about 145 to 66 million years ago, the continents continued their slow drift, the climate was warm, and sea levels were high, creating vast, shallow oceans and new coastlines. This geological isolation, paired with a revolutionary new type of plant life, set the stage for an unprecedented explosion of biodiversity. You are walking through a meadow, and for the first time on our journey, the ground is not just a sea of green. It is a riot of color. Tiny, unassuming flowers, the first of their kind, are beginning to bloom. It may not seem like a big deal, but the rise of flowering plants or angiosperms was an evolutionary game-changer. Before this, the world was dominated by ferns, cycads, and conifers. The flowers, with their vibrant colors and scents, attracted new types of insects and provided a richer, more diverse food source. They led to the co-evolution of butterflies, bees, and other pollinators. An uncommon detail often overlooked is that this botanical revolution fundamentally altered how ecosystems functioned, creating new food webs and providing an enormous boost to the global biosphere. The dinosaurs, in turn, adapted to this new world of abundance, and as you step further into this vibrant world, you see the most striking examples of this new era of specialization, the ceratopsians. This group of dinosaurs, which includes the famous Triceratops, looks like something straight out of a medieval jousting match. You watch a herd of them lumbering across a grassy plain, their massive armored heads swaying from side to side. They are built like tanks with short, stocky limbs and deep chests, and they are armed with elaborate frills and horns that look like works of art. A common historical fact is that the Triceratops had one of the largest skulls of any land animal, reaching lengths of over 7 feet. Those magnificent horns were not just for show. They were used for defense against predators like T-Rex, but also in combat with rivals over territory or mates. As you stand and watch them, you can't help but wonder about the purpose of their ornate frills. While they certainly offered protection for the neck, many paleontologists believe they were also used for display species recognition and even thermoregulation. The frill was likely a vascular marvel full of blood vessels that could be flushed with color to attract a mate or express a mood. It's a reminder that even in a world of horns and armor, life finds a way to be beautiful and expressive. Another fascinating element of these creatures is their social life. The academic debate here is whether they were solitary animals or traveled in vast herds like the wildebeest of today. The discovery of large bone beds, where dozens or even hundreds of skeletons of the same species are found together, suggests that many of them were indeed social creatures, a truly awe-inspiring thought. But the ceratopsians were not the only armored dinosaurs on the block. You feel the ground shake with a different kind of thud, a heavy rolling impact. And then you see them, the Ankylosaurs, the walking fortresses of the Cretaceous. Their bodies are covered in a dense bony armor like a suit of natural mail. And some, like the famous Ankylosaurus, have a heavy bony club at the end of their tails that could break bones with a single devastating swing. It's hard to imagine anything being able to take on these creatures. If a minivan-sized hedgehog had a medieval flail for a tail, it would be an Ankylosaur. They were the ultimate in defensive specialization, a perfect solution to a world full of predators. An uncommon detail is that their armor wasn't just a solid plate, but a mosaic of small interlocking plates called osteoderms, which were embedded in their skin and allowed for some flexibility. It was a kind of natural chainmail, tough enough to stop a bite from a large predator, but flexible enough for movement. The Cretaceous world is a tapestry woven with these magnificent extremes. From the first delicate flowers to the heavily armored herbivores, life has reached a peak of complexity and specialization. The dinosaurs have adapted to every possible niche, from the swift hunters to the massive grazers. They have claimed every continent and filled every role. Their story has been a long, slow climb from the ashes of a forgotten world, but now they have truly arrived. And as you stand in the golden light of this flourishing age, you can almost hear a distant roar, the kind that belongs to a creature that has been waiting for its moment to enter the stage, a creature that is the undisputed king of this world. The air is still and humid, the scent of flowering plants thick on the wind. You stand at the edge of a great forest, a place where tall conifers and newfangled flowering trees grow together in a chaotic, beautiful symphony. For millions of years, the dinosaurs have been evolving, diversifying, and adapting. But their story has been building to this moment, to this one creature, a name whispered in museums and roared on movie screens. And as you wait, the world holds its breath. There is a deep, low thud that you feel in the soles of your feet, a rhythmic vibration that precedes the sound. And then it emerges, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is not the roaring, lightning-fast monster of the movies. The real creature is far more profound, far more unsettling in a way that science makes real. It is a creature of immense power and surprising grace. A common historical fact is that a fully grown T-Rex stood up to 13 feet tall at the hip and could reach lengths of 40 feet from its massive head to the tip of its long muscular tail. It weighed around 9 tons, as much as a school bus, and its legs were built for walking with a posture that was both powerful and efficient. You watch it as it moves a slow, deliberate march that speaks not of haste, but of absolute dominance. Every step is a statement. And that head. It is the most famous skull in natural history, and for good reason. Its teeth, which were the size of bananas, were not just serrated blades for slicing flesh. They were built for crushing bone. A common historical fact is that a T-Rex had the most powerful bite of any land animal, capable of generating up to 12,800 pounds of force, enough to shatter the bones of its prey with a single chomp. It was in a way a walking garbage disposal, built to get every last bit of nutrition from a carcass, including the calcium-rich marrow within the bones. The debate over whether T-Rex was a predator or a scavenger has raged for decades, and the prevailing academic consensus is that it was likely both. When you're a 9-ton apex predator, you take your meals as they come, whether you have to chase them down or find them already dead. An uncommon detail about this creature is its sense of smell. Forget those tiny dark eyes in the movies. T-Rex's sense of sight was probably decent, but its sense of smell was off the charts. Its skull contained enormous olfactory bulbs, a part of the brain responsible for processing scents, that were larger in proportion to its body size than in any other dinosaur. This means it could likely smell a carcass or a live animal from miles away, a kind of prehistoric search engine for dinner. It was a creature that could track you down, not just by sight or sound, but by scent, a truly terrifying thought. And what about those tiny arms? They are a source of endless jokes, but they were not useless. While comically short in proportion to its body, they were extremely strong, tipped with 2 sharp claws. Paleontologists still debate their exact function, but they could have been used to hold struggling prey close to the powerful jaws, or to help the animal push itself up from a resting position. You feel a gentle breeze, and you watch as the T-Rex moves into a clearing, its silhouette, a familiar, imposing sight against the bright Cretaceous sky. Its skin, we now know from fossil evidence, was not just leathery and scaly. Recent discoveries suggest that some of its ancestors, and possibly even the T-Rex itself, may have had patches of feathers, or at least a kind of downy fuzz, especially as juveniles. It is a humbling thought that the most terrifying predator in history may have looked a little bit like a giant, angry feathered chicken. The more we learn, the more our mental image of these creatures changes, moving from movie monsters to complex biological beings. And yet, for all its power and fame, T-Rex was just one member of a diverse family of theropods that ruled the land. Other smaller predators like the velociraptor were still a force to be reckoned with. An uncommon fact about them, often obscured by popular culture, is that they were not the man-sized monsters of cinema. They were actually about the size of a turkey, but they were cunning, agile, and likely feathered with a deadly sickle-shaped claw on each foot. They hunted in groups and were incredibly intelligent, and they are a perfect example of a smaller dinosaur that was just as successful as its titanic cousin. As you stand in the presence of the king, you feel not fear, but a quiet, contemplative awe. This creature, with its bone-crushing bite and sophisticated senses, is a testament to the power of evolution. It is the end result of millions of years of experimentation, a perfect killing machine that was also a living, breathing animal with its own instincts and behaviors. And it is here, at the peak of dinosaur power, that we see the final breathtaking act of their reign. You have just witnessed the king of the land. But for a true sense of the Cretaceous, you must lift your gaze from the ground and turn your attention to the skies and the seas. The world you now inhabit is a tapestry, woven with countless threads of life, and the dinosaurs, for all their majesty, are just one magnificent pattern within it. This is not just their story. It is the story of an entire planet in its prime, and it is a fascinating, complex, and beautiful tale. Look up. You feel a gust of wind, a sudden shadow, and you see something so immense it seems to defy the laws of physics. Soaring above you is a pterosaur. A common historical fact is that these magnificent creatures were not dinosaurs, but close cousins, flying reptiles, that branched off from the same lineage as the dinosaurs much earlier in the Triassic. They were the first vertebrates to master powered flight, a feat that would not be replicated for tens of millions of years, and some of them were impossibly large. You watch as a Quetzalcoatlus, one of the largest flying animals of all time, glides effortlessly on the thermal winds. Its wingspan is over 35 feet, the length of a small airplane. An uncommon detail about these creatures is that their wings were not feathered. They were made of a thin but durable membrane of skin stretched between a greatly elongated fourth finger and their ankles. Their bones, like those of birds, were hollow and remarkably lightweight. You watch as this colossal creature, which looked like something out of a fantasy novel, turns in the air with a graceful, almost serene motion. Its head, with its long pointed beak, is held high, and it seems to own the sky. Paleontologists still debate the exact hunting methods of the largest pterosaurs, whether they were filter feeders that skimmed the open seas, or if they were terrestrial stalkers using their long necks and beaks to hunt small animals on the ground. Regardless of how they ate, their presence in the sky was a constant, awe-inspiring reminder that the world had truly diversified. Now turn your attention to the coasts, to the shimmering surface of the inland seas. The oceans, too, have their own ancient overlords. You see a sleek, powerful shape moving just beneath the surface of the clear, warm water. It is a Mosasaurus, a terrifying marine reptile that was the apex predator of the late Cretaceous seas. A common historical fact is that these creatures were not dinosaurs either, but were more closely related to modern monitor lizards and snakes. They could grow to over 50 feet in length, their bodies built for speed, with a powerful shark-like tail. You watch as it moves, a living torpedo with a mouth full of sharp conical teeth. Its jaws, an uncommon detail, were double-hinged, allowing them to open incredibly wide to swallow their prey whole. The academic debate here is fascinating. Paleontologists still debate the exact hunting methods of the Mosasaurus, whether they were ambush predators using their streamlined bodies to launch themselves at unsuspecting prey, or active high-speed pursuers. You also catch a glimpse of other marine reptiles, like the long-necked plesiosaurs, which used their paddle-like limbs to glide through the water, like graceful sea turtles, or the sleek, dolphin-like ichthyosaurs. The oceans were a bustling, dangerous world, and the dinosaurs were nowhere to be found. And what about the little guys? Look down. Tucked away in the undergrowth, scurrying beneath the feet of giants, you see a small furry creature. It is a mammal, one of the tiny scrappy underdogs that has been quietly evolving in the shadow of the dinosaurs for millions of years. Most were still small nocturnal creatures resembling shrews or rats, but they were tenacious and adaptable. An uncommon detail is that even at this early stage, some were already showing signs of specialization, with a few species becoming climbers, others burrowers, and some even learning to glide between trees. You also see the birds, which are now truly separating themselves from their dinosaurian cousins. A common historical fact is that by the late Cretaceous, there were already many species of birds that looked remarkably like modern birds, with fully functional wings and beaks. They were already filling the niches that would ensure their survival long after the dinosaurs were gone, a quiet promise of a future world. The Cretaceous is a world of incredible diversity, a rich layered tapestry of life. There are massive pterosaurs soaring above, terrifying reptiles ruling the seas, and small determined mammals and birds quietly evolving beneath the feet of the titans. Every giant has its entourage. The forests are full of insects, the plains are covered in flowers, and the air hums with the sound of a world that is not just surviving, but thriving. This is the zenith of prehistoric life. The dinosaurs are at their peak physically, socially, and ecologically. They have spread to every continent, adapted to every climate, and integrated themselves into the fabric of nearly every ecosystem. And as you stand in the last golden light of this beautiful, intricate world, you feel a sense of profound, tranquil awe. This is the story of a planet in its prime, and the story is about to take a turn you never saw coming. You are standing in the golden light of the Cretaceous, a world at its absolute peak. The air is still and warm, filled with the hum of insects and the distant cry of a dinosaur. But as you look up, you see something new, a point of light in the sky far too bright to be a star. It is a cosmic visitor, a chunk of rock roughly 10 kilometers wide, about the size of a small mountain, and it is hurtling toward Earth at an incredible speed. The light grows brighter, a blinding, searing presence that fills your entire field of vision. This is the Chicxulub asteroid, and its arrival is the single most important event in the last 66 million years. The impact itself is beyond words. There is no sound to describe it, for sound would have been irrelevant in the face of such power. It is a common historical fact that the energy released upon impact was equivalent to billions of atomic bombs. The ground beneath your feet liquefies and shock waves race around the planet, bouncing off each other and circling the globe like waves in a bathtub. Forests catch fire for hundreds, even thousands of miles away, their dry leaves and brittle wood ignited by a superheated air blast that precedes the shockwave. But the true end, the long drawn-out final act, comes not from the immediate violence, but from what follows. The impact vaporizes a vast amount of rock and sulfur, which is instantly shot high into the atmosphere, a colossal dusty shroud that blankets the entire planet. Within days, the skies turn dark. A common historical fact is that this event plunged the planet into a state known as an impact winter. The sun, the source of all energy and life, is blotted out. Photosynthesis, the very foundation of the terrestrial food chain, grinds to a halt. The plants, those same flowering plants that had ushered in the golden age, wither and die. For the large herbivores like Triceratops and Edmontosaurus, this means instant, slow-motion starvation. With the plants gone, the predators like T-Rex are soon to follow. It wasn't a quick, merciful end. It was a drawn-out, agonizing collapse of an entire ecosystem. You feel the temperature drop. The world, which had been so warm and humid, now grows cold and dark. Acid rain formed as the sulfur in the atmosphere, mixed with water vapor, falls from the sky, scorching the leaves that are left and turning the oceans toxic. The finely balanced ecosystems that had supported the dinosaurs for over 160 million years unravel one by one. The immense sauropods, which had once ruled the Jurassic with their sheer impossible size, are now too large to survive in a world with no food. Their bodies, so perfectly adapted for a world of abundance, are their ultimate downfall. It is an uncommon detail, but it is a humbling one. The very thing that made them so successful, their size was the very thing that made them so vulnerable in the face of such a sudden and profound change. And yet, some life perseveres. Who are the winners in this terrible lottery? The survivors are those who are small, versatile, and above all lucky. Many paleontologists and climate scientists still debate the exact duration of the impact winter and how different regions of the world were affected. But the outcome is clear. Some of the smallest dinosaurs, the birds, are able to survive. A common historical fact is that they were able to survive thanks to their small size, fast reproduction, and varied diets. They could find food in the darkness seeds and insects, and their warm-bloodedness gave them an advantage in the sudden cold. They were the ones who squeaked through the bottleneck of extinction. Other survivors include the small mammals who were able to burrow underground, and some amphibians and reptiles who could survive on detritus or were able to hibernate. You are standing in the quiet aftermath of the Chicxulub event, and you feel a profound sense of loneliness. The world is a silent, cold place, a ghost of its former self. The majestic herds of ceratopsians are gone. The great sauropods are gone. The fearsome T-Rex is gone. All of them erased from the face of the planet by a cosmic accident they never saw coming. It's a powerful lesson in perspective. The dinosaurs, which had ruled the world for far longer than humans have even existed, were brought down, not by a more powerful predator or a more intelligent foe, but by a simple, unavoidable change in their environment. Their story didn't end because they were flawed. It ended because sometimes the universe throws a curveball you just can't dodge. You have traveled over 160 million years from the quiet silence after a cataclysm to the zenith of a world ruled by giants. You have seen them rise, diversify, and finally fall. But our journey isn't over. Our story doesn't end in the cold, dark aftermath of the asteroid. It continues here today in the quiet hum of the modern world, in the halls of museums, and in the hands of a paleontologist brushing away dust from a fossil. It is here that we begin the final chapter of our story, the one that asks, what did they leave behind? The bones lie silent beneath our feet, but they are full of whispers. A common historical fact is that for over 2 centuries, scientists have been piecing together this story from fossilized clues. A bone here, a footprint there. Paleontology is a kind of gentle time travel, a way to step into a past that is so ancient it feels fictional, and yet we have the evidence right in our hands. Think of a single fossil. A tyrannosaur tooth, its serrated edge still sharp after 66 million years. It is a piece of a story, a single sentence from an ancient book that is still being written. The more we learn, the more our mental image of these creatures changes. Gone are the slow, lumbering, tail-dragging reptiles of the past. In their place are dynamic, social, and often feathered animals that were far more complex and active than we ever imagined. An uncommon detail that has truly reshaped our understanding is the discovery of fossilized soft tissues. You read that right. In some exceptionally well-preserved fossils, scientists have found traces of collagen blood vessels and even pigment cells. From these tiny clues, we're starting to understand not just the shape of these animals, but their color. Imagine a microraptor, a small 4-winged feathered dinosaur with glossy iridescent plumage like a magpie, or a hadrosaur with a striped tail for a kind of natural camouflage. These aren't just bones anymore. They are glimpses of living, breathing beings with patterns, behaviors, and perhaps even personalities. This is a profound shift in our understanding, moving from black and white sketches to a full-color portrait. The academic debate continues to fuel new discoveries. For example, paleontologists still debate the exact social structures of some of the larger theropods, whether they were solitary hunters or whether they lived and hunted in complex, coordinated packs. The discovery of large bone beds, where multiple skeletons of the same species are found together, suggests a social aspect to their lives that we are only just beginning to comprehend. Were they family groups? A hunting party? We don't know for sure, but the very act of asking these questions allows us to step into their world and imagine a life that was far more intricate than just a story of predator and prey. But perhaps the most beautiful and humbling part of this story is that the dinosaurs never truly went extinct. A common historical fact is that birds are dinosaurs. Every pigeon you've ever side-eyed on a city sidewalk, every robin you've ever heard singing in the morning, every hawk soaring on the wind, they are all dinosaurs. They are the direct descendants of a small feathered lineage of theropods that survived the extinction event. They are a testament to the power of adaptability and a reminder that even after the most profound loss, life finds a way to continue. Their story is a powerful lesson in resilience. They have been here far longer than we have, and in many ways they are still here living in our world, in our skies, and in our collective imagination. The final and most profound legacy of the dinosaurs is not in their bones, but in our sense of wonder. They remind us that the Earth is a place of deep time, a story that stretches back so far that our own lives are but a single, fleeting blink. They remind us that our world was not always as it is now, that continents have shifted, that oceans have risen and fallen, and that giants once walked where we now drive to work. They inspire us to be curious, to ask big questions, and to look for clues in the most unlikely of places. They are the great silent storytellers of our planet, and they are still teaching us about survival, about change, and about our own small place in the grand, beautiful narrative of life. And so, as your eyes grow heavy and your thoughts begin to drift, let that story settle in. Let the rustle of ferns, the distant cry of a feathered raptor, and the gentle thud of ancient footsteps accompany you into sleep. Dinosaurs walked this earth for over 160 million years, and in many ways they're still walking with us now in birdsong, in fossils, and in our ever-curious minds. Just out of curiosity, where in the world are you listening from tonight, and what time is it where you are right now? Whether it's the early hours in Edinburgh or a midnight breeze in Melbourne, I'm glad you're here. If you enjoyed this quiet journey through time and would like to hear more stories like this, consider leaving a like and subscribing to The Sleepy Scientist. It helps others find their way here too. Now rest. There is nothing else to do, nothing to worry about. Just let the sound of my voice and the echoes of ancient life fade into the quiet. You're safe here. You're home. Sleep well and dream of distant worlds.